Can you guys hear me? That's all I need to know. Anything at all. We got it. We got it. All right, folks. I don't want to have my AirPods in right now, but I don't want to take them out on the off chance that this goes wrong. So let me get my screen set up and we'll be good to go. No, we're good. John, there was no fix. I just killed the StreamYard stream and stopped using StreamYard and pushed it through directly via OBS. I think it's a StreamYard issue, honestly, which has been mildly buggy lately. So let me do this first. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Tuesday, December 10th. I am Josh Engleman, here to break down a two-game NBA slate, but it is the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. We're here, boys and girls. We're here. Yeah, I didn't do anything. I made no changes. Everything is plugged in exactly like it was before. Speaking of, let me plug my light back in. That was really weird. That was really weird. I don't know. Had no idea why that was happening. Doesn't make any sense. Let me take a sip here and let's just get into it. Alrighty. Y'all ready? Let's do this. The Orlando Magic are 7.5 point underdogs in Milwaukee, 213 total. Obviously, this is not the Orlando team we've come to know and love over the past couple weeks. We have no Paolo Banchero, no Gary Harris, now no Franz Wagner, and we also have a Q tag on John Isaac. Now, Isaac missed their last game, so this is relatively important news. He's also a guy that could fall into some extra minutes today, and you might not necessarily expect that to happen. So, could be weird. Could be weird. As I look at Orlando to start the day, we are getting some pretty big chunks of ownership. And the biggest ownership goes to the guy that the guy that I was trying to talk about at the beginning of the show before we ran into all of our technical issues. Cole Anthony is in 50% of lineups on DraftKings at 4,200. He's in 44% of lineups on FanDuel at 4,800. We saw Cole Anthony play 29 minutes last time out. And I projected him, I would say, relatively pessimistic to start today. We could talk about it here. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. So we could talk about it here. So they went with Suggs, KCP, Tristan Da Silva, Goga, Wendell Carter Jr. in their last game, that is. Caleb Houston, oddly enough, was the first guy off the bench. Jet Howard was last. Now, I went to Jet Howard over Caleb Houston with the assumption that Isaac is in, but it could easily be the flip-flop. But they haven't really dusted off Caleb Houston as much, so I don't know for sure. I don't have a great feel. Caleb Houston was basically Wendell Carter Jr.'s direct backup, which is interesting, but only in certain spots. Then he backed up to Silva. So it's possible Caleb Houston's a part of this. I went with Howard over Houston. We shall see. But we did get Cole Anthony closing that game, playing close to 29 minutes. We got Anthony Black closing that game. He played like 25 and a half. They didn't close with Wendell Carter Jr. He played 21 minutes. They didn't close with Tristan da Silva, so they closed with those other guys. Now, I don't have a great feel of who they'll actually close with. And they might even go a different direction because of the NBA Cup. But it feels like a spot where you play a bit more of Wendell Carter Jr. and Goga Batadze and try to wall off a rim that Giannis will be attacking over and over again. But ultimately, even if you give Cole Anthony 24 minutes, John, is that a real question? The answer is incredibly obvious. Even if you give him 24 minutes, and you don't, because he doesn't have to close ever, really. 24 minutes still puts him in 50% of my lineups. He's 45% optimal for me. I got a 60% boom score on him. I think he's my number 3 contender, only behind Giannis and Shea, I think. So the way that I'm looking at it is Cole Anthony's basically the easiest name to click because of his price. And who knows, maybe they make some changes, but those minutes don't seem to be going anywhere. And then we're seeing, in the 30s in ownership to Suggs, Wendell Carter Jr., and Goga Batadze. I would say probably Suggs is my preferred option from that trio. Massive usage rate bump with no Franz around and no Paolo around. Not the type of guy that should be soaking up that usage, which is part of the reason Cole Anthony gets to play a little bit more, but not that he's efficient either. But 7,300 for Suggs on DraftKings, 7,200 on FanDuel. He's getting heavy ownership, and I think he should. I think he's the second best option that you can get to from Orlando. And then it just becomes a mess. I mean, look at the ownership coming into the rest of the Magic. Anthony Black, Tristan da Silva, Mo Wagner, John Isaac, and KCP are all in that teens range. Now, I didn't get as much of da Silva. I didn't get as much of Mo Wagner. I did get a little bit more of KCP, which is admittedly scary. But, I figure him and Jalen Suggs are going to do their best job trying to make Dame not look great. Wendell Carter Jr.'s minutes have been so weird as of late, but at the same time, the fact that you could roster him at power forward makes things a lot easier. And then I still think it's incredibly viable to go to someone like Goga. I went 27 minutes to both Goga and Wendell Carter Jr. They seem to play 53-ish minutes together. Not together, but a piece in each game. They tend to overlap for about 5 minutes, 6 minutes, something in that neighborhood. So I have it slightly higher for what I think this matchup is going to be. But, Goga's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy at 5,400 center only. Very easy to want to get there. And then if John Isaac plays, he's 3,900 power forward center, 15% owned, and could play upwards of probably 26 minutes, probably plays around 18 no matter what. That's a value option that I don't even want to say that it's sneaky, but it certainly looks good. All right, if we ignore Cole Anthony, because I don't really think there's much conversation for Cole Anthony not being the best option from Orlando, what do you guys like the most? That's what I want to know. What do you guys like the most here for Orlando? I think it's Suggs for me. Although Goga's interesting. It's just those center only dudes on a 4-game or on a 4-team slate. You kind of just have to get center right at that point. And that's where it gets a little tough. Mo and Suggs. Yeah, Mo Wagner, I don't trust at all today. They have really been dialing his minutes back as of late. They're really prioritizing Wendell Carter Jr. and Goga. Even in that last game, Wendell Carter Jr. plays 21 minutes. You still only got 17 out of Mo Wagner. 18 in the game before that, 21 the game before that. Now, the game that Goga missed, you got 28 out of Mo Wagner. But when these guys are in, when you get Goga and Wendell Carter Jr. at the same time, Mo Wagner's just playing like 17, 18 minutes. Not that he's not rosterable. That's not what I'm trying to say. But 5K center only, the path to his minutes is a little tricky. Yeah, S&P, I'm with you there. To me, I see it as Cole Anthony as the clear 1. I think Suggs is pretty clearly my 2. And then the trio of Wendell Carter Jr., KCP, and John Isaac would be in like around 3. I really like Goga, but we're going to name a center on the Bucks. We've got 2 more on Dallas. We've got Hartenstein for OKC. So we're not devoid of centers. Goga looks good. He just should be in like a third of lineups, and I think that's just all that we can really do to talk about it. But Cole Anthony is the guy that everybody's going to want to click on, and I don't really see how we would get away from that. Now, Mo Wagner on FanDuel is a slightly different story because he has power forward eligibility. So he's way more rosterable to me on the FanDuel side than he is on the DraftKings side. But yeah, I mean, and one thing we want to remember is on a 2-gamer, we probably need to be paying attention to literally everybody. S&P, that Bucks rotation is chaos. Jeremy, I don't know why that seems like Mo Wagner would get more minutes. I really don't. Maybe if John Isaac is out, that could be a path to more minutes for Mo Wagner, but he's played 17 and 18 in the past 2 with him in. McNasty, is that a serious question? Cup implications? Are you asking, are there cup implications? Or what are the cup implications? Or do we think that people play more because of the cup? No, that we're in the tournament portion of this, McNasty. If they lose, if you lose, you're just done. It's win or go home now. But, how much do they want to juice these guys? What if we get a 38-minute Suggs game and a 36-minute KCP game, and, well, then after that it gets pretty dicey. But, that could just cut Jet Howard and they go 9 guys. Orlando's just balanced. They are the second most owned team. The most owned team is Oklahoma City. The second most owned team is Orlando. Then it's Dallas. And then the least owned team is the Milwaukee Bucks. And that shouldn't be all that surprising. This game has a 213 total. The Dallas-Oklahoma City game has a 231 total. So we're talking about an 18-point gap in total, a 4-possession gap in pace, which is pretty big. So there we go. No way Cole Anthony gets over 24 or 25 fantasy points. Yeah, I bet you're taking that message away, King. I see what you're doing. Yeah, S&P, I definitely agree with you on that one. The status of John Isaac really creates some weird situations. Let's take a look at Milwaukee, who I believe are a lot easier to talk about. So for the Bucks, we don't really have anything to worry about here. Giannis probable, Middleton probable. Nobody that ever plays is out. But we're not getting as much ownership here. We're getting about 25 to Dame on DraftKings. He's at 40 on FanDuel. We're getting around 40 for Giannis across both sites. We're getting Gary Trent to around 15 on both sites. We're getting Bobby Portis in the 20s on both sites. And then we have Taurean Prince around 10 across both sites. Guy I like the most is pretty clearly Giannis. He's either my number 1 guy or my number 2 guy between him and Shea. 11-1 on DK, power forward center eligible. I have him 48% optimal. He's 39% owned. I got a little bit over the field. Obviously, still a very difficult defensive matchup against Orlando, but Orlando doesn't really have the offense to keep up. So give me Giannis pretty easily. Second most guy I got, though, is actually Bobby Portis. Now, I hate that, but I only gave him 24 minutes, 5,600, power forward, center eligible. He's already 20% owned. That's the third most owned guy on Milwaukee, so I understand it. I had his optimal rate around 24%. That's about where his ownership is. Similarly for Dame, 25% owned on the DraftKings side, 9K. I mean, in theory, this isn't the best spot. You're going to have Suggs and KCP fighting over every screen possible for these guys for Dame. So, I mean, he's going to be getting a full barrel of really good defense. But still, no problems getting to him. Brook Lopez not really getting much love. He's been a non-issue from a point per minute perspective. He's 5,500. He's 8% owned. Now, do I think that he's a little under-owned? Yeah, I do. For this slate, now obviously Orlando's got two centers, and you've got these guys that have power forward center eligibility. But the amount of guys that you could realistically roster at center are pretty limited, and I don't think that Brook Lopez sub 10% on a two-gamer makes a ton of sense to me. Middleton's fine. I went 22 minutes. Shooting guard, small forward, 5,900. The price tag there is still a little problematic. I did get over the field. He's 8% owned. I have 12, but I don't think that he looks like some sort of amazing play. Someday he might get a giant minutes bump. I don't think it's today. That would surprise me a bit. They're going to take him slow, is my guess. So you can get to him, but you kind of just need Chris Middleton to play really well. Whereas there are other guys that could play their way into additional minutes. And that's really the big difference here. But when you start looking at the rest of these guys, your AJ Greens, your Andre Jacksons, yeah, they're rosterable. Green 3,200, Andre Jackson 3,100. These guys are sub 0.6% owned. John C., they're like the good version of Pacers backup centers tearing their ACL. Or sorry, tearing their Achilles. The other guy that I think we need to pay attention to is Gary Trent. He's around 15% owned. He's been playing weird minutes as of late. Last 5 games of minutes for Gary Trent. 3 of these had no Middleton. 19, 27, 31. Middleton comes back. Trent plays 37 and then 24. So I went 24 to Bobby Portis. Could play upwards of 30. I actually think Gary Trent I went to 28 on Gary Trent. I do think he's live to play 30, 31, 32 if things are working out. It's not what I want, but shooting guard, small forward for him with a little bit of minutes upside. I saw something. B-Ball Index posted this a couple days ago, and it surprised me. They posted their top 10 on-ball defenders, and Gary Trent was in that top 10. That was not something that I had expected. Kind of wild. But I think Milwaukee looks a little bit different from Orlando, and that's why you see the lower ownership. It's hard to want to click Brook Lopez, AJ Green, Andre Jackson. To me, it's hard to want to click Chris Middleton, but I could understand the appeal. But there's a lot more iffy dudes on Milwaukee than there are in Orlando. And there's a lot less iffy on the Dallas OKC side. Anything else you guys want me to touch on here for Milwaukee before we touch on the final game? The late night hammer, so to speak, of the Dallas Mavericks. 4.5 point dogs in OKC, 231 total. I really hope PJ Washington and Najee Marshall are in today. They're both questionable right now. I want this game to be as good as it can be. I mean, this is a future Western Conference Finals preview in a game that has some stakes. Sign me up here. Now, it's pretty cut and dry when it comes to ownership. Luka's around 50%. And then Kyrie, PJ Washington, Derek Lively, Klay Thompson, and Daniel Gafford are all in the 20s. Now, in terms of picking through those dudes, Kyrie certainly looks good, but if you're playing Luka, or if you're playing Shea, or you're playing Giannis, it's going to be a little harder to get to someone like Kyrie, but still looks really good to me. I think really the easiest guy to want to click on from Dallas, I don't want to say this, but I mean, $4,600 Klay, shooting guard, small forward eligible. He's 25% owned. I got 30. It's just really good flexibility. It's really good flexibility. CG wants to know if I think Middleton's minutes bump up anytime soon. I would guess they're going to be really slow about it. They have been in the past, at least. He did DNP yesterday. Did they change their rotation at all? Yeah, they kept it at 9. So the 4 minutes that Battle got in that first half just got soaked up, which made sense. Whew. Clearly, I like Luka. He's in 50% of my stuff. Is he my most owned guy? Yeah, there's not a player on this slate that I have more of than Luka Doncic right now. 11-3 point guard only. He's in 47% of lineups. He's in 54% of mine. I mean, this is the kind of game that Luka gets up for. You know, I got him at close to 30 points, 8.5 boards, 8 assists, 2 stocks. If I'm paying up for anybody right now, Luka Doncic appears to be that name. But Klay is my second most exposed guy. And then it's, 20 for Kyrie, 20 for PJ, 20 for Lively. This is a spot where things could look very different. And in a weird way, like late swap becomes pretty important. Because if we don't have PJ Washington and Najee Marshall news at 7:01 or at 6:45 or whatever, that's a lot of potential changes because Maxi Kleba is already out. And if we get no Washington, no Marshall, we're going to be giving a lot of additional minutes to some of these guys, and it's going to completely change the ownership in Dallas and OKC. John Graves, thoughts on Tibbs subbing Cat out with 10 seconds left in the first half for one free throw attempt before he checks back in? What? So somebody else was shooting a free throw, Tibbs subbed him off and then did what? I don't understand. I mean, that's what you should do if you don't want him to pick up a foul in a stupid situation. But I don't really know the context. You guys want to do the Klay Thompson thing today? Here's what I don't think that we can do if PJ Washington and Najee Marshall are in. 4,100 for Dinwiddie, 4,100 for Grimes. These guys are basically not owned, and it's kind of how I see it. I don't really think getting to Dinwiddie or Grimes is very easy. He had 3 fouls. Yeah, so he did exactly what you should do. You sub him out for the free throws and you bring him back in for offense. Rather roll the dice on one of the OKC dudes than Klay. Yeah, that's scary. Because the OKC dudes, at best, are Klay in those situations. Whereas Klay has basically no competition for his minutes and might have even less if one of PJ Washington or Najee Marshall are out. John, that probably happens every day. It happens all the time at the end of games or end of halves, but that is a really common thing. All right, final team. OKC. Thunder have pretty much everybody they normally have. Dylan Jones is with the G League team, but All the other injuries are the guys that have just been out. And this is where we're getting the most ownership on the slate. 266% ownership to OKC. This is the highest owned team. And it's because they're terrifying outside of their main dudes. 40% ownership to Shea. 40% ownership to Dort. 40% ownership to Hartenstein. 35 to Jalen Williams. In the teens for Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, and Aaron Wiggins. And then you get the heaviest ownership coming in to Alex Caruso. 3,700, shooting guard, small forward, 50% owned. He is, right now, the second highest owned guy on today's slate behind Cole Anthony. And I get it. I mean, I went 22 minutes, which is around what he plays. Maybe he plays a little bit more in this spot because it matters. He's the type of guy they would want to do that for, but I got to 46% of him. I don't really see any situation where I wouldn't want to be getting to a ton of Alex Caruso. But this is also the team I want to roster the most. I have 270% of OKC. My next highest exposed team is Orlando at 220. I got 40% of Shea and 30 plus of Jalen and close to 50 of Lou Dort. Another 40 of Isaiah Hartenstein. I'm either at or above the field on essentially all of these guys. And that makes a ton of sense to me. So many more points in this game. OKC's the favorite, better pace. What's not to like here? Now, they're tricky because on a slate like this, you never really know like who are going to be the guys that really soak up the minutes. S&P, I'm with you there. I'm with you there. OKC three-pointers will be flying? Will they? I mean, OKC is middle of the pack in three-point attempt rate. Dallas is 5th in three-point attempts allowed. Seems less like a game where the threes will be flying. I mean, to me, it's pretty clear that Shea is your best option from OKC. Caruso is the easiest guy to click. He's the immediate cash game entrance into your lineup. But I think my like truly preferred option from OKC is Dort. It's the type of game that they want him for. You know, he has the physicality to deal with Luka inside the arc. So I think, you know, in terms of minutes for Dort, I wouldn't be surprised if they're higher than normal, not lower than normal. He's shooting guard, small forward. He's 4,400, which, keep in mind, 4,400 for Lou Dort is $200 cheaper than Clay. $600 more expensive than Gary Trent. And he's still getting all of that ownership. And honestly, I think that's completely correct. The guy that I'm looking at most here is at least as of right now, is Lou Dort. Because I think he's live for the biggest minutes jump in a game that matters. Because we see it happen from time to time. Like, he played 31 last time out. I gave him 30 here. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's the guy that gets a little bit more. I wouldn't be surprised if they simply just mirrored his minutes as closely as possible to Luka Doncic either. But, I mean, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 guys from OKC in 32% or more of my lineups right now. This is just the easiest team to get to. The other really awesome part for OKC, or like having heavy ownership to this second game or having heavy ownership to Oklahoma City, is that if we don't get that Dallas news, it opens you up for a lot more potential swaps and frees you up to move some stuff around if one or both of those guys happen to be out. So I even prefer the relatively heavier stand on this later game. I have 430%. I'm basically spot on the field either way, but I like the idea of having a bit more of this OKC team. They're clearly the best team that you can get to. It's the extra guys that are tricky. The Cason Wallace, the Isaiah Joe, the Aaron Wiggins, the AJ Mitchell. Oh, they had 42 last? Cool. All right, I'll make sure that I project 42 for today as well. Got to make sure we lock in that one individual game result. Who matches best with Hartenstein? It doesn't matter. That one doesn't matter. Let me hit you guys with the schedule quickly for the rest of the day, and then we're going to be done here. We've got the NFL strategy show coming up next. Laffy and Ben already on to the next week, breaking this one down. NHL strategy show at 2 p.m. And then, same as yesterday, 45-minute deeper dive, 45-minute live before lock. I'll be on the deeper dive with DK today. We'll break this one down in excruciating detail. Hopefully the audio works from the jump. And then Greg and Eric will be here for live before lock. No playback today, guys. No playback today or tomorrow. We can't do playback for any of the NBA Cup games because they're national TV games. And we can't, well, we can watch those games, but you guys won't be able to see it. So that part we'll get, we'll only be able to do playback for days where we don't have the NBA Cup. I like that shout, Steven. Do I prefer Luka or Giannis? I mean, I prefer them both. I have more of Luka than I do of Giannis, but I don't have preferences between those three pay-up options. They all look amazing. I would never choose one on purpose. Yeah, look, Dallas is just going to go with whatever's working better at center. That's all they have to care about. But with no Maxey, my expectation is that they do go 48 minutes to both Lively and Gafford combined. We got 27 minutes out of Lively last time out, 21 for Gafford. So they split the full 48. I went 47, and I think I gave 1 minute of PJ Washington at the 5. But especially if PJ Washington is out, then you should be expecting the full 48 going to Lively and Gafford. And that will make things a little bit more interesting. I like the slate. I like the games to a degree. I mean, I would like the Orlando side a lot more if they had real people. But Dallas OKC, there aren't going to be too many games better than this one on paper throughout this season just because of the NBA Cup. So we got to pay close attention to that Dallas news. And we've got plenty of time to do that later tonight. 90 straight minutes of breakdowns between the deeper dive and live before lock covering these two games. Same situation tomorrow, although hopefully we just get a little bit more audio when we start tomorrow's show. We can build some lineups and check and see what we've got. But for now, guys, NFL Strategy Show coming up next. Thank you guys for being here. I greatly appreciate it. Hope you guys have some fun today. Talk to you guys later.